How intricate and strangely formed are the threads that bind us, each fate interwoven with the next, until that timeless dusk descends and we confront the inviolate essence of that which we fear the most. Strange now to remember that sombre afternoon not so many days before, when I and my master, Sir John of Harrow, for whom I served as squire, were brought in our wanderings to that citadel whose claw-like walls enclosed my fate, and forever bounded to that of Mortalus. Like some vast and forsaken creatures, the finely carved doors of the citadel opened as we approached. I scanned the balustrades, searching for a glimpse of the agents who foresaw our progression along the pathway that led to the citadel's entrance. But there were none that I could see. My growing disease with the stillness that surrounded us seemed to infect the very horses we rode. It was only my master's will which gave them and myself the courage to go onward through the portal and into the courtyard beyond. As we entered, I had expected to see the disarray of an abandoned fortress, unkept and littered with the refuse of whatever the citadel's inhabitants had left behind in their flight. Even now, I find it nearly inconceivable that the uncanny order, the very cleanliness of the courtyard, filled me with an even greater dread. The commonplace objects that neatly stood within the castle walls, objects that would have seemed so natural in an inhabited realm, took on an eerie strangeness. An unmanned stillness engulfed us as we stood there, and yet I sensed a malign will. A shadow that seemed to fall into my very soul. What place was this? What business had we here? As we edged our horses onward through the pristine courtyard, an unseen force seemed to compel us ever forward to the gateway of the keep itself. No voice greeted my master and I as we moved through the dreamlike stillness towards the strangely fashioned portal. The inner courtyard, like the one before it, was pristine and silent. How great was my surprise then, when my master, dismounting from his horse, informed me that it was not chance that had led us here, but his need to meet with the head of a devout order of brothers who lived within these very walls. Giving me leave to tend to his horse, to find supplies and bedding for the night, my master left me.
Hello? Who's there? Hello? Who's there? Hello?
Psst. Come closer. You must not hear us speaking. You are the squire to Sir John of Harrow?
Yes, I am. My name is William. How do you know this? Who are you?
My name is Peter. I am... or better still, was a novice in this order. Your coming was known to me. They have been waiting to meet with your master, Sir John. He is to be brought into the circle of the Brotherhood. You are the only witness to his coming. You have been marked to die.
This is madness. You are ill. Let me go and get help.
Listen to me. This is the citadel of the Dark Brotherhood. All around you are the servants of the Hand. Their power is growing. Soon the will of the world will be theirs, and all living things will become servants of the Hand.
This is nonsense. You're mad with fever.
Look at the mark. Not so long ago it was but a shadow of what you see now. This marking of the cypress tree is the curse the Dark Brotherhood sets on their victims. As it grows and flourishes, my life is sucked away. This is my punishment. My punishment for stealing the Book of Dark Knowledge. This is the mark that lives.
But how?
Look at your hand. Your only hope is to find the chalice. It alone can cure you. It can grant you immortality. You must find it, and with it the secret of Mortalus before the marking on your hand has darkened like mine.
But how? If what you say is true, the Dark Brotherhood will find me and...
Here. Take this. This is the Book of Dark Knowledge. Within its bindings you will find a part of what you need. Now go. Go before it is too late. And beware of all that you see and meet. The servants of the Hand are everywhere. Now go. Go. Go.
Looks like something I've seen before. But what? The map! The map in the book! Madness. Madness. I'm in danger. Danger all around me. Those men pursuing me. Who are they? What are they? The Brotherhood. The Brotherhood Peter spoke of. What do they want of me? What? Must escape. Stillness. Birds. Silence. Wind. Voices. Voices. The wind.
Countless ages, so we stood, our song a brazen sword, against a darkness vast and far, until our sweet sister dear, under a foul spell made weak, was taken from this barrow by a creature whose shiftless form beguiled the youngest of us all. So still, and here often, know what was once, and still might know.
Think of mortal flesh! I'm sorry it was the ferryman. My craft, and I will ferry you across these, the river of shadows. Give me freely but one part of your mortal, we'll end the bargain, we'll distract. The current grows ever strong now. You must decide it quickly.
Evenings ancient, bright and fair, when night was but a sight, and passing ebb upon the day, we sisters all at fallen ground did guard against the tide of shadows that rode upon the air. Once upon a kinder time, for countless ages, so we stood, our song a brazen sword, against a darkness vast and far, until our sweet sister dear, under a foul spell made weak, was taken from this barrow by a creature whose shiftless form beguiled the youngest of us all. So still, and here often, know what was once, and still might know. Evenings ancient, bright and fair, when night was but a sight, and passing ebb upon the day,
now, we sisters five, with full graduate and with equal measure to your kindness, offer this, our humble gift, that it may grant you speed and safety all the more.
My God, the stench. Stench of decay. My God. My God. How can this be? Them. What? What is this place? And the silence. Nothing. Nothing alive. Alone. It claws at me. The marking. My hand. I must move on. Away from this place. Where? I must find the chalice. Find the chalice.
My friend, you must be wearied from your travels. Rest here a while. This is a place of sanctuary. Rest and meditate but a short time, and I am certain that your strength will be renewed if you stay but here in this goodly house of comfort.
Darkness. It encloses me. My God. Curse them! I cannot see through this darkness around me. They are around me. They cling to me. Even the earth. Dead. Dead beneath my feet. Stop. Stop this. I must go on. I must stop this. I must go on.
comes. He comes. Grant us rest. Grant us rest. Oh, comfort us. Comfort us. We are the sightless. The sightless ones. The sightless ones. Never resting. Never resting. The sightless ones. Never resting. Never resting. Heed us. Heed us. The balls of dreams. The balls of dreams. The balls of dreams. Dreams and demons. The balls of dreams and demons. Dreams and demons. Heed us. Heed us. Heed us.
How can this be? This boy. This boy. Something strange. Who is he? What is he? What is he? Cold. So cold. This place. Boy. Not real. Thing. He cannot here in such a place. Must be an illusion. A thing must be conjured up by them. A thing to drive me be in such a place. Emotions to me.
You have been kind. Your coming has been long foreseen. Prove your worthiness, prove yourself here where the true circles lie. Prove your worthiness or fail and forfeit your prize.
Here.
Passages.
An opening here.
Into the darkness.
Passages.
Those sounds.
Passages leading into the darkness. Those sounds.
Sounds. A dankness around me. That's not the smell of death, only something else.
How? Is it the darkness alone which supports them?
An evil. The rocks are...
How? Is it the darkness alone which supports them? I cannot see. Is this a trap? A trap?
Something else.
Something else.
Am I close to what I see?
I will confess that I do not know what passed in those dreadful final moments. All reason must surely have left me. Yet when once again I'd regained my senses, I clearly saw that there was little left of that sullen fortress of evil, and the very markings on my hand had themselves faded to mere shadows of what they once were. Standing as best I could, I looked about me. How long I stood there, adrift in an incomprehensible state of horror at all that had passed. Nor can I tell when some greater dread took hold of me and I thought back to the fate of the chalice. Had it been destroyed too? I began to frantically move through the rubble, my eyes seeking out any sign of its resting place. Whatever had transpired in those final moments had caused complete havoc and destruction, and yet here, untouched, was what I'd assumed to be some simple edifice. How could it have survived? As I drew even closer, my senses now alert to an ever-growing fear, a faint sound seemed to come from within. I tried to convince myself that it was only my fevered imagination which lent an aspect of gloom across the face of the wooden doors that led into. It was then that an unmistakable sound of movement came from within. I rushed at the door and, forcing it open, entered a scene so fantastic that I felt the weight of horror and disbelief overtake me, and I fell to my knees. How like the Dark Brotherhood to mask the very place where their evil rites had been performed within this innocuous portion of the citadel itself. All about me stood the dark instruments of torture and mystical rites. It was then that I noticed the stench of rotting flesh which permeated the air. Looking to one wall, I saw splayed out like some ungodly sacrifice what I knew to be the remains. His legs bound in coarse rope, his arms outstretched and twisted into sun-deep mockery of the crucifixion. His body was upheld against the stone wall by ornately carved silver spikes driven in. The spoiled remnants of his novice's habit still hung from his body. It was clear to me in the dim light that all his flesh had been stripped away. Only his face had been left untouched, but where his eyes should have rested, only dark. On either side of him stood two stone archways, their sidings marked with symbols in an archaic tongue, and there, midway between myself and this horror, was a cloaked figure.
Welcome, William. I am Mortalus. Like yourself, I too am immortal, and part of that order of which you now also belong, that other brotherhood, that which is known as Mortalus.